and good evening. I'm Melisa Idris. Welcome to The Future is Female. This is the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. I'm delighted to introduce my guest today, Jean Liew, who is the co-founder of the NGO TrapNeuter-Release-manage, TNRM Malaysia. Welcome to the show, Jean. It's good of you to join me.
Thanks for having me.
You are a fellow animal lover, so I'm glad to welcome you to the show. I'm curious, though, to know a little bit more about you and your background and how you came to have this deep passion for advocating for stray animals.
I think it's something innate. I literally was born with it. I didn't have a choice. So in terms of passion for animals, I think that it's nurture and nature, right? I mean, genetically, I was just born to have loved
From childhood?
animals. From childhood.
Oh.
I remembered, you know, kids would probably want to watch cartoons. Of course, I watch cartoons too, but I like animal-themed ones, and I would literally every night after dinner, like my dad wants to go to the supermarket or whatever, I was like, he'll bring me with him, and I'll be like, oh, I want to go get like Nat Geo, like documentaries.
Oh, wow.
And there were video cassettes back then, so, you know.
Of course.
Just like spilt my age, but yes. So yeah, National Geographic, like magazines were my thing, and not like I even knew how to read it, but I just love looking at like photos of animals and things like that, so yeah.
So how did you put your passion into practice? So you've always loved animals.
Yeah.
How did it lead to founding or establishing TNRM?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I love dogs and cats and horses, and I think especially growing up in Malaysia, the stray problem is so big here. You know, you see stray animals everywhere, and you know, you can only have that many of your own pets, right? I can't take all of them in and give them the life I give my own pets. So eventually, how it all started, actually the first case that happened, my best friend knew that I was obsessed with animals, and she found some puppies in her property. They were like renovating it to make it a restaurant or whatever. And from there, she called me in like, oh, can you like, you know, save these puppies? And I was like, oh, okay, of course, let me go have a look. And then when I went to save the puppies, there were like 4 of them, I realized the mom was still around, and but she had already weaned them off. So, you know, weaning means, you know, they already don't need her milk anymore. They can eat solid food. So that's when I was feeding them, and then I got them rehomed, long story short, like took them home. But when I did, I felt bad for her. So I went back to look for her. And when I did, I realized that she had returned to a pack. She had a pack of like, there were 6 of them, 3 males, 3 females actually. And when I saw it, I was just like, this is going to be a never-ending issue. Of course, you know that at the back of your head if you think about it, but you don't really think about it until it's in front of your face. And I was like, okay, I need to do something bigger than just rescuing puppies as they come along, or 1 kitten here, 1 dog here. Like, it's not going to make an impact, you know, to the general problem, you know? So, so yeah, and then from there, I went on to try to catch this mother dog, and I realized it was such an incredible, impossible feat to do alone and in open space. Right. And this just brings me back to like how it all started, and it's just, we have come so far from then. Okay. Like now we're like such pros. You know?
I'm curious to learn that what you've learned and observed and how you've expanded over this. But what was, you know, started as passion and compassion, and then became an NGO. So how did you decide to commit to starting this as a long-term mission? Yeah,
so I thought I could do it myself, on my own, and I realized, okay, I can't. So what I did was, I have one of my best friends. He also loves rescuing animals and all that. He's not my partner, actually. But yes, anyway, I digress.
It's got a happy ending, Goose, sorry.
So we both like ran around like headless chickens trying to do it on our own, and then we realized, okay, this is kind of impossible. We still tried to go back, and then just so happened he was at a vet, right? And at that time there was I think a DBKL SPCA collaboration kind of vet, where they did like cheaper neutering and all that. So he met these 2 guys who were doing what I wanted to do, like i.e. do TNR
Just
work.
Doing individually,
like,
okay.
Yeah, but they're also kind of doing it on their own. He was like, wait, these 2 guys, and that's how he kind of introduced us. And they had already unofficially started TNRM like for a year before that. Yeah, so Stuart and Stewie. So that's when I got like
Stuart and Stewie.
I know. What are the chances? Yeah,
it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was meant to be, right? So and then I connected with them because they had like a little Facebook page, and there were like 80 followers or less or something. It was already like TNRM, but it was not officially registered, nothing. It wasn't established as a foundation. And then, but I just like messaged them. They didn't reply me, and I was like, reply me. And then they did. And then they came, and long story short, the 6 dogs, it took us like 6 months to get them neutered, trap-neuter release. That was our first case. And I mean, when I joined them, since I joined them, and we were home like, I think 18 puppies. Because of course we were so slow, and they started breeding, and we're like, okay, try to rehome, try to rehome. And then from there, I was like, at the end of 6 months, they were like, would you like to join us officially?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I was like, actually, yes, you know, but I have like kind of the admin kind of background, like I've done corporate before and things like that. And they're kind of just chill, like one's a piano teacher and one, so they're like, okay, why don't we make this official? I suggested, let's make this official because no one's going to just keep banking in money to Stuart's bank account for us to, only your friends would trust you, and it's such a small amount. So let's make this official. So I got it registered officially, established it, went to ROS, set an office, emailed the government, get out. So got all that done. We could officially open a proper bank account. And now we've like, I don't know, go check our Facebook.
So you formalize the structure, which is wonderful because then there is momentum to create more impact. Right?
Exactly, because that's the only way you can really make a difference.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Walk me through what trap, neuter, release, and manage, what that actually looks like in practice.
Okay, so in a nutshell, trap stands for literally going out and trapping, catching the dogs in the most humane way. That we have kind of also, I would say we should patent this, but yeah, we have actually, like, through trial and error, we have discovered a very good way of doing it in the most humane way and effective as well. So we trap them and then we send them to the clinics, get them neutered, spayed, ear tipped to indicate that they've been neutered. Because you can't tell when they're female, especially. Vaccinated as well. And, you know, sometimes, of course, we're supposed to send in healthy animals, but sometimes they have underlying stuff that we don't know. So if they're already there, we do get them treated if they discover, okay, they have TVT or some diseases that they can't proceed to neuter straight away. So we get them treated as well. And then from there, we will, after 7 days of post-operation recovery and boarding at the clinic, we will then get them to release. That's the R. They release them back to where they were caught and then manage. There are 2 meanings for that. Manage in terms of managing the stray population as a whole, but also we only work with regular feeders of the packs. We don't just, oh, I see a stray, call Jean. No, it doesn't work that way. It needs to be a pack of animals or an animal that you've been feeding and bonding for a long time, because you actually play a role as a feeder. For example, if you're a feeder, community feeder, you need to be involved in the process of like luring the animal in because they trust you and will be like hiding.
So you work with communities. You go in and you identify maybe a colony and then you work with communities. Yeah,
community feeders.
Feeders,
yeah. So the feeders will get in touch with us and like, I'm feeding this community pack of animals. That's when we go in and help them
Was it just through word of mouth that word spread about the work that you're doing? How did you kind of build momentum in the beginning?
I think a lot of it was, some of it's word of mouth. I mean, word of mouth is still one of the most powerful mediums out there. But a lot of it is social media. Yeah, so we had, like I said, it started with like 80 followers on Facebook. I think now we have like 15,000 or more, like definitely 5-figure, like a lot. So, and we started Instagram as well.
What do you think is behind that? Why do you think people seek this out or want to follow this type of work?
I think it's something that, I think everyone has kindness in them, but they just can't be bothered to do it on their, it's something difficult. If I ask you like, yeah, I want to help the animal, but it's difficult. Like, you're not going to go out there and do it on your own.
Which is why I find your story so inspiring, because you've managed to do this on top of having a full-time job. So you're also the general manager of the luxury gym Triad, right? So you're, for all of us, myself included, who said, I wish I could do something, but you know, I've got all this, I've got work, I've got family, I've got commitments. You've actually gone out and done it. You've done it while also, so I think that's really no excuse for us.
It was not easy, and I think, I mean, back then when I first started it, I was kind of in a, I had the luxury of time in a way, in a sense that I work for family business and I could just like sneak out and like do things like that. But yeah, I've done everything from literally crawling through rubbish chutes and done the hard physical work of catching the animals to now I've kind of gone into more, I'm more in charge of fundraising now. Now I send people out to do it. And like,
Well, the funding is also interesting, and I do have to ask you, because you think about, so you talked about trap, neuter, return and manage, but it's the in-between that costs money, the getting them treated and vaccinated and boarding for recovery. All of that requires effort and funds. Yes.
Yeah, it does. So that's why now as much of effort you need to channel into actually catching the animals and sending them to clinic, blah, blah, blah. And communicating with the feeders, that's also a very tedious task. As you can tell, I rather deal with animals than people. But you also need to channel a lot of energy into getting funds because nothing comes for free. It's so difficult. And, you know, all of us actually have, you know, taken out from our pockets in the very beginning in like buying dog food, cat food, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, obviously for it to run successfully, we need like the whole community and like society to kind of contribute, right? So fundraisers, I always make it like you get something in return, you know, I get sponsors and then like they get goodie bags, blah, 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 but 100% of profits and proceeds from that event, whether it's a fitness event, whether it's like a comedy show I've done before, things like that.
Great.
Yeah, so
that's such different ways to raise money.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the people who are skeptical about trap, neuter, release and manage, who think that it takes a long time or the results might not be as effective. Because if you think about Malaysia's approach to stray animal management, it has always been catch and culling, right? It is that direct. Yeah. I'm just wondering what you make of that, Jean. Why do you think this method persists? Well, first of all, we're not the first one in the world. We didn't like invent this method. We have adopted it from all the developed countries in the world. UK, Australia, blah, 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 Hong Kong, they've all used this method and it's been proven very, very, very effective, right? Take away the humanity, cruelty aspect, which is obvious, which is why we are driven to do it, but not everyone's compassionate about animals. It is also very effective. You know, if you want to remove strays from the streets, that's probably the best way you can do it, because how it works are they're territorial, right? So a lot of people ask us this question, like, why do you release them back? Why don't you just like, you know, rehome them? Is it cruel to release them back? Well, first of all, that is their home, that's the life they know, and they would much rather be back to where they were caught and being fed and blah, 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 than stuck in a shelter or like in a cage. That's like, imagine during COVID, did you like being stuck MCO? We're all complaining about MCO, oh, we can't go out. This is the dog's life in a shelter. They're just stuck there forever, right? And in a cage sometimes. And it's not easy to get them rehome. So, and even they get rehome, it's not guaranteed they're going to get to go home. Right. There's so many cruel and abusive owners out there as well. So anyway, back to this. Release is so important because there's something called the vacuum effect. So if you imagine group A is here, group B is here. If I remove group A and cull them, right. Group B, overpopulate, and they'll take over this territory and they'll populate anyway. Right. So it's not effective. So it's not, in the long run, it's not effective because eventually other strays will come in. Exactly, and unneutered strays as well, right? So what we do though, we do TNR, group A, B, we take them to the clinic 1 week, bam, put them back, and now they can't breed because they're all sterilized. They can't move in because they're like, because they will defend the territory, and then we go around and neuter these back as well, right. Blah, 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 blah. So that's how it works. So that's literally how it works. But it needs to be obviously done on a larger scale. Right. You know, and we are quite a small group of us that's doing, and it's not easy to find people dedicated and willing to do this kind of work. I mean, we've just talked about that, right? So it would be great if it could be done on a bigger scale with more resources, then you'll see the effects more. But just in terms of numbers, a pair of unneutered male and female dog, like it's like a pyramid, right? Imagine one male, one female. And they don't have no sense. They're still gonna mate with their own litter and things like that. They'll crossbreed. But if you leave them unneutered, they can populate to, if I'm not wrong, 65,000 animals in like 6 years. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like a whole pyramid. And cats is like 100 over 1,000. Oh my goodness. That's how effective it is. So if you think it's ineffective, look at the numbers, Google it, ChatGPT it, whatever. You'll realize that it's so effective even if you just neuter one animal. Do you ever come across resistance? So I can understand the people who question why release it, because maybe you might need to educate them more about that. But when you work with community feeders, and when you do this work, have you ever faced resistance from people who say, why do you need to neuter? Why do you need to, why this process? Yes.
hard yes.
Okay, what's the counter argument that they're providing?
So a lot of people, there's a few groups of thinkings, right? Trains of thought. One will say, they humanize them. All right, they say, oh, you should let them procreate. It's like, you know, give them the freedom to
yeah, how would you like to be neutered? Right, I've heard that before.
Okay, it's like, okay, like, if you could communicate family planning to them, great, go ahead. You know, or like, you know, safe sex, go ahead. You know, but obviously not, the animals. You can't humanize them to that extent. Okay, that's number one. There's also another train of thought where this one can be quite controversial, whereby they think, oh, if they're already pregnant, like, again, it's like abortion, humanizing them. Like, oh, abortion in human beings.
This is
like,
spay, terminate, spay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Neuter, terminate,
yeah,
yes.
so it's like we do abort, you know, and like, and we have spoken to qualified vets and they say that it's just as safe. Of course, there'll be cases where, you know, there has been deaths in just plain neutering or in abortion, but it's not, I won't say it's any more higher risk. I think it really depends, but I mean, we've heard from the vet, not that I would know, but we asked the vet's advice and they said it's totally fine even up to the day because it's just like having a C-section.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not any more risky. But just like any surgery out there, even for humans, there's always a risk. Even if you do appendicitis, you could die, you know, but the chances are slim. But I'm not saying we have 100% success rate when, you know, no animals, you know, pass from surgery. Of course there will be, but very, very, very minimal.
Okay, all right. Yeah. That's interesting. So you work closely as well with the vets in your community. Do you have like a panel of vets that you work with?
We do, sorry. But they come and go, I would say. That's why I said we did, because we were working quite closely with some of them, and then suddenly they realized, okay, like they want to focus more on private case, like personal pets, whatever, or they, you know, for the nature of our work is, it's not definite. So if I have a case, let's say you're like, oh, okay, Jean, I've got this, you know, I'm feeding this group of stray cats. I can spend like 5 hours there and not get anything, right? But I could also spend 1 minute and get it straight away. You know, it's really, really volatile. You would never know. So the thing is, we need to work with vets who are okay with us coming in with no appointment and just like walk in anytime during our opening hours, and we just put it in the, you know, our kennels or cages there set for us, because they don't mix it with the pets, because, you know, they might come in with diseases, they're not vaccinated, blah, 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 blah. So we need vets who are open to that, you know, who are very, like, who want to do some CSR.
Right.
Like, who are willing to sacrifice, you know, infected animals coming in, but in a separate area without appointment. You know, we can just board them there till they're ready to board. We had that, and we had it quite good for a few years, but then now that clinic has now like, so now we're looking, we have other vets, but we need more, because also we have cases all over Klang Valley and Selangor and KL, so we can't just have one. Let's say it's in KLCC area, like we have to send everything just there. Even if you're in Puchong, if you're in Shah Alam, you know, so it's better if we have more.
You need a network, for sure.
We do.
I mean, it sounds incredibly challenging, not just in terms of operationally and logistics, but also emotionally, because you're dealing a lot with uncertainty. 100%. And I'm sure burnout is a real concern in this line of work, right? How do you make sure that you're staying emotionally afloat, particularly if you are confronted on a daily basis with some of the worst human behaviors, right? The neglect and the abuse and the cruelty. I think
the irony is, like, people who do this are animal lovers, obviously, right? And I think it's really difficult to separate and compartmentalize like emotions and, you know, the work itself, right? So I think there's a point in time where you have to realize, okay, if I get emotional, I'm not going to be able to continue, and I won't be able to help the animals, which is my mission. And if you're a true animal lover, you'll think about the bigger picture, right? And it's just like animal owners. Every time a pet passes away, you're like, oh, I don't want to have any more. But these are the people who deserve to have it, because you treat the animal so well, right? But I know it's hard, but you got to just compartmentalize and, like, of course, when I started, it was very difficult. Like, I was breaking down, like, oh, I cried at the vet and everything. But I realized, like, wait, snap out of it, Jean. Like, if you keep doing this, you can never achieve the goal. Right. So you got to be pretty strong. Like, but don't get me wrong, I'm not that strong. I did burn out. I am burning out. I have burnout. And, you know, dealing with life itself, you know, it's already hard, and you have to do this and get emotional, blah, blah, your relationships, blah, blah, blah. You know, so it's just like a roller coaster all the time. And, as a woman, hormones.
Do you mind if I ask you something personal? What surprised you most about yourself through this journey?
I think the resilience, and also like the fact that, actually what surprised me most is the fact that all my childhood dreams and like things I wanted is already, I already have it. I don't realize it sometimes until you reflect, like, oh wait, I've always wanted like an animal shelter and save animals and do the, like, of course when you're a kid you don't know any better, you say like I want a zoo or whatever, and you're like, wait, I'm already doing it, I already have it. You know, it's like you don't realize until you reflect, like, and now it's like kind of sad that you're jaded at this age and you've done it, and you're like, wait, you have to kind of just take a step back and realize like, oh my God, I've done it, you know? Yeah. But being burnt out as well, so you just got to realize also there's always a way to still continue your goals, but without sacrificing like also your mental health, right? So that's why I went from catching for, like I did it for 10 years, like going out there, whatever free time I had, going out there, going against my family's will, because you know, like, oh, you're so, it's dangerous for you, you shouldn't. I just like went out anyway, things like that, a lot of things, and then like your family saying this, and then like dealing with people who are like telling you, oh, like, oh no, I don't think you should nature.
But you knew that was what you wanted.
Exactly, right? And then doing that really, but at the end of the day, now I go into fundraising, which is less stressful in the sense
but equally as important.
Oh yes, but I would say not less stressful, it's still very stressful, but without the emotional stress.
Okay.
Like I don't have to see like the animals all the time and things like that. So I think we're still doing the work, but like I said, fundraising is just as important. We can't do any of this without funds.
Right. So a lot of the work that you do has to do with humane stray animal management, right? But when you think, you brought it up just now, not everyone who are pet owners provide safe and loving homes for their companion animals. We've seen such a rise in cases of cruelty and neglect towards animals. And I just read something the other day. The Department of Veterinary Services received over 12,000 complaints involving animal abuse and neglect and welfare issues, and that's shocking to me.
It is shocking.
What do you think is behind this? Why suddenly is there such an uptick in our society of cruelty towards animals?
I don't think it's a sudden rise. I think it's always been there. It's just now more made known to us, and I think with the power of social media, things like that, like you know, you get caught, right? I think it's always been there, but definitely the root cause of it all, it's really just education and educating people to be, and just instilling compassion in people, right? I mean, I'm not even surprised because when I'm out there, I see, for example, you're out at the mamak or whatever, and you like sit there eating, and then there's this stray cat or dog, and if you see a child that's never been exposed before, they'll be like, oh, but you see the parents going like, shh, shh.
Or try
of course
to
the parents are gonna be
shoo it or kick it away.
Exactly. So the kids already think, oh, fear, I should be scared of this thing, and I should do the same thing, like kick it or whatever. Like, and I think that's why I say it's nature and nurture, right? Thankfully, thank God, my parents are so like compassionate about animals too. I mean, my mom not so. She was also a bit scared of animals, but she wouldn't kick it and all that. She would just, I'm scared. But my dad is not like that. My grandma apparently loved animals too. So that's why I say it's innate, but it's also nurture, how I was brought up. They never did that in front of me, you know? And in fact, they're like, no, you should be kind to animals, be gentle with them, things like that. But I think that's, again, like nurturing your child. But education, just in terms of educating people why strays exist, is not their fault. It all comes from irresponsible pet ownership. Again, it's the people's fault, right? So I think that, and of course, I don't think it's a rise. I think it's always been there. But like I said, social media. But also enforcement. That's another thing, right? Enforcement is another issue. So you said there's what, 12,000 complaints or whatever, but is anything done about it? So is there any enforcement? Is there anything that, you know, I know there are laws placed, but are they, first of all, harsh enough? And second of all, are they enforced? Do people just get away with it? That's exactly why it's all out there.
So as someone who works within this, who has seen the worst and sometimes the best as well of what people can do for animals, what would you like policymakers to do if you had, say you had a direct line to the policymaker and say, hey, I want you to do this one thing today, implement this now today. What would it be to make life better for the animals out there?
The first thing I would say is no more culling, catching and culling. You do TNR. So that's exactly what we need, like for the government forces or whatever, to actually adopt this method as opposed to catching and culling, which is what they're still doing, right? Because, like I said, what we're doing is very effective, but also we're just a small group of people doing it, right? If the people with the resources and everything they have right now, they're using it to catch already, but instead of killing, just get them neutered and get them back to the streets, that would be great. And that,
have you seen anything that might indicate that this could be the direction that maybe state governments might want to take?
Well, I wish I could say yes, but I just feel like there's now like coalitions being formed, everything from that copy dog that got abused, things like that. I think there's just more, I would say more, I guess, awareness about animal welfare and cruelty and things like that. But I don't think that it's still, there's protests and things like that. But it's not just about animal cruelty. It's about getting to the root cause of it, which is neutering. Because if there's no strays out there, there's nothing to be cruel to.
Okay.
You know, I mean, of course, your own pets.
That is the crux of the matter. Is to make sure that they're neutered.
Yes, so that they don't populate and there's not so many out there. And honestly, the end goal would be to have a stray-free Malaysia. Like, you go to a lot of countries, like, do you see strays around? Like, when you go on a holiday in Japan or whatever, you don't see a single stray, I don't think, you know? And whatever pets are out there, all treated well.
Yeah. I love that you said it's not the strays' fault that they're there. They're just living alongside us. Yeah. Well, what does success look like for TNRM Malaysia in 5 years, let's just say?
I just said it. Stray-free Malaysia.
Stray-free.
So have no strays
So
on the streets,
if we were to walk out, there'll be no stray animals.
Yeah, because there are domesticated animals who deserve to be at home and, you know, treated well and, you know, things like that. So they're not wild animals. They shouldn't be out there, you know, let's put it this way. Like I said, it just all started when one irresponsible pet owner dumped the animals on the street. Oh, I don't want it, just open the door, let them run away, or dump it on the highway and just drive off. And then they're not neutered, and then a lot of people did that. They start populating and they became strays. They're not wild animals. They're not like wolves, you know, they don't belong in the wild.
Well, Jean, I thank you so much for coming on the show, but also for the work that you and your team do.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all the time we have for you on this episode of The Future is Female. I'm Melisa Idris, signing off for the evening. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.